So what are you doing?
We're doing chicken with udon noodles and spring greens and mushrooms and some peppers. So yeah, we just put on the...
And some hoisin sauce.
And hoisin sauce. So we've cooked the chicken on the marika here, and we're now just adding the noodles. And that was going to add another couple of bags of noodles.
We even need to crunch them up. Oh well.
Next stage, we're going to add some hoisin and spring onion sauce.
Hoisin sauce.
Dump it in there. Make sure we get it all out. Give that a stir up. We'll start to take shape now.
Smells like a proper Chinese now.
Aye. This is Veterans in Action street food. Coming to your place near you. Add some veggies. This will only take a few seconds. And then that's the final stage. I think that'll be enough for us. There we go, it's looking good.
Oh, we forgot the mushrooms.
We get mushrooms. I'm going to put some mushrooms in as well.
We forgot the mushrooms.
Add some mushrooms in there, mate.
What are you putting in, John?
So this is a feast, just for the four of us. As you can see, there's quite a bit here. So let me go through what we've done. So okay, we set up the snow peak fire pit. Set off the charcoal in it, let it burn to its ash, no flames. Set the marika on it, heated the marika up. Cooked our chicken off. Makarika. Cooked our chicken off so it's nice, make sure it's all cooked all the way through. Then we added the udon noodles.
You want some rivias?
So, some hoisin and what was the hoisin? What?
Spring onion.
And spring onion sauce. Then we added some mushrooms and vegetables, and I think that's the top of the hoisin sauce bottle. No, it's not, it's a mushroom.
It's a mushroom.
And there we go. There's our
fingers.
There's a nice little meal for us. Very quick to do. We're doing these meals because we're preparing for the expedition and the way we're going to cook an expedition. Now this is just one method we're going to cook. This will be our easiest method when we can. Is to cook over a fire. We also got Dutch ovens which we'll be taking possibly, and we've also got a cooker which we'll have in the back of the car if we can't sit out at night time, or indeed if we're not allowed to use a fire in some locations. Okay, we've got Mark here from, how do we say it, Mark? Wheelvray, is it?
Wheelvray Farm, yeah.
Wheelvray Farm, farm who we stay with each year. We come down here to Cornwall. They let us stay for free, great supporter of the charity. And we basically work out of here when we're down here. So it's pan it out to Mark. Yeah,
I've already panned it round him. Hi Mark.
Hiya.
So Mark came to take some pictures, but now we've kind of dragged him in to get some of the Veterans in Action street food. You hanging, John?
Well, I think it's been a couple of quite good days, you know.
A couple of good days,
A couple of good days. A good day in Plymouth yesterday.
What did we raise in Plymouth?
Just over £1,000, you know.
Right, what did we raise in UK today?
UK was just under, I think it was £600, £700 or something.
Just over £700, I think it was. That's not bad. Nearly £2,000 in 2 days,
That's not bad.
And look at this wee setup we got here.
Beautiful, isn't it?
So alright, sitting here, 8 o'clock at night. Look at that sky, brilliant blue sky. The moon's up there, and there's our wee fire for the night. Only got the one log on the night because we're going to have an early night tonight because we're into St Ives tomorrow. Hello, John.
just give you a bit of an update. What's happening at the moment? You can see in the background the lads are putting the window back in the Defender. What they're doing with it at the moment, you can probably just make out Stu pulling some string there. For those of you who don't know how these windows go in, they're a bit different to your regular car glass. So what happens is in your regular car glass, they just put glue basically around the outside, put them in place, and put all the trim back on. But with these, they've got a rubber seal, like you see on a lot of old classic cars. Defenders are probably one of the last vehicles you see on the road that still have these sorts of windows. And windscreens. Pardon me, not windows, windscreens. Right, I'm being corrected there. So anyway, the rubber seal that goes around, me personally, I don't like fitting these. They're a pain to do. You need all sorts of tools and whatnot. But the theory of what they're doing is they've soaked some string in like a soapy solution so that they could put around the outside of the seal once it was on the glass. They place the glass into the frame, and then a bit at a time they pull the string out. So you should be able to get a good view here of Stu and Del just putting the windscreen in. You can kind of see where the seal pulls itself out using the string. And it's looking like this is the finishing touch.
Yeah, that little bit, yeah. Just hold your string.
Almost. Hey!
I think that's gone in, isn't it? Just this corner.
So we've just got a little bit of bits and pieces to do, just to get rid of any folds. So let's go and have a look at the other disco and get out of their way.
Come down just a little bit.
So we've had a bit of success with the red disco. Success or failure, however you want to look at it. She's basically ready to go on the road. She's been in for an MOT a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. It came up with a few silly little bits that we hadn't realised. We've since discovered that the master cylinder was knackered. I mean, it's not fully knackered. It's just sort of spongy, but it still went through its brake test weirdly. So we had to replace the master cylinder. The fuel stop solenoid, it wouldn't actually engage. So what we had to do to get it running was we had to pull the plunger out of the stop solenoid and put it back into the fuel pump so we can actually start the engine on the key, but to stop it we have to stall it at present until John gets back with the bits that we've ordered today. What else is there wrong with it? The ABS light is what it completely failed for. So everything else is just advisories, but the ABS light had failed. So what we ended up having to do was we've had to individually unplug all of the ABS sensors and test the resistance across the sensors. And what we found is that the disco had lost contact with the front right-hand sensor, so that was what was putting the light on. But since we checked all four of them, we found that the rear left one, when we had a good look at it, it turns out that it had worn the end off. And when I did the resistance check, it was well outside of tolerance for what it should be. So what we opted to do was we opted to change both the rears and the front driver's side. So the front passenger side is the only one that's, as was when the vehicle came to us. We haven't found out whether that works or not yet, because we've changed the master cylinder and Richard's just in the middle of bleeding the brakes for I think the third time now. Not his fault, but it's just where we like to keep taking the brakes apart. So what we're hoping now is that we'll get this outside, we'll get it up over 5 or 10 miles an hour, whatever it is for the ABS sensors to register. If that ABS light goes out, she'll go straight out to MOT and we get our free retest, and that should be us. So work for this afternoon. We're going to finish off the engines that you can just see in the background behind me. I've got them ready for the engine and gearbox to go back together, and as soon as the green disco arrives we're going to fit the engine and gearbox, have a little play with some of the anseals and whatnot, and see if we can get that one hooked up. So what we've got here is, this is Jeff, one of our volunteers from his most flattering side. Jeff's just painting up the tow bar at the moment, just the little touches that make it all that little bit better. And I think afterwards what Jeff's planning on doing is, you can just see the new seats that we've got for the Defender. So we've had a good look at them. These are out of a Mazda RX-8 and they're comfortable as hell. I've had a nice little sit on them myself. So what we're doing is Jeff's also painted up some brackets that Rob made, and he's going to just cut some of these bits and pieces off. The brackets here, they obviously don't fit into our Defender because they're different heights, things like that. So they're held in with rivets. So Jeff's going to drill them or grind them out, and then same with the little pegs here. And then what we'll do is, I think he's going to decide whether he wants to bolt or weld the new brackets on so that they fit into the Defender. And then this is on electric, so I'm going to have to make up some switches so that most of these are actually set off airbags and things like that. So what I'm going to do is make up some switches so that they make the seat go forwards and backwards and tilt and whatnot. And luckily with this model, all the switches are integrated into the seat. So it means that it's a standalone unit. Once you've sort of put the positive and negative into it, then that's pretty much all it needs. It does the rest of it itself. So that's a little project we've got for the Defender coming up, or hopefully going to be done in the next day or two. What else have we got going on? We've got the engine for the Defender. We want to try and run this weekend if we can. So again, somebody's going to start looking at doing tank straps so we can get the fuel tank back in, because once we've got the fuel tank back in, we can obviously bleed the engine. Once we can bleed the engine, we can look at running it. So yeah, that's what we've got going on at the moment.
Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at VIA Charity.